"We're celebrating Christmas without you," Mom wrote. I just nodded. Later, I saw the photos. 21 people in matching pajamas. Presents everywhere. My girls asked why we weren't there. I smiled. We'd celebrate differently. That night, I stopped paying for everything I'd been covering for them. By morning, the family chat was blowing up with messages. "My name is Kathleen. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. And this is the story about the Christmas my parents decided that me and my daughters didn't matter." 2 weeks before the holiday, that message came. "We're celebrating Christmas without you. Hope you understand. Love, Mom." Period. They wanted me to know I was excluded, and they didn't care how I took it. I stared at the screen, not in shock, just tired. Things had been wrong between us for a long time. I was never the daughter they wanted. They pushed for me to live by their blueprint. Church every Sunday. Early marriage. A house. Obeying the rules. I broke all of it. Got pregnant before marriage. Raised 2 girls alone. Focused on work. Never went back to church after they were born. Over time, they stopped hiding their disapproval. They needed a version of me I couldn't and didn't want to be. It wasn't just how I lived, but how I fit into their world. I didn't join the church potlucks. I stopped bringing dishes to family gatherings I wasn't really invited to anymore. I didn't volunteer to host parties or babysit other people's kids while the rest discussed how I was still finding myself. I helped where it actually mattered, paying bills, giving rides, buying groceries, but I didn't pretend. And to them, that was betrayal. So when that message came, I understood. It was the final move in a game I didn't even know existed. They didn't want to fight. They just needed us not to be there. I didn't reply. I just packed up, got Ava and Lily in the car, and drove to a small cabin near Flat Rock. It was quiet there. Woods all around. A frozen lake behind the house. Fairy lights on the porch. The girls thought it was magical. We baked cookies, lit the fireplace, wrapped cheap presents for each other, and pretended we were living in one of those innocent Christmas movies. Christmas morning, I foolishly opened Instagram. And I saw them all. My parents. My brother, his wife, their 3 kids. Cousins. Even my uncle from Florida who never visits. All in matching red and black pajamas with a mountain of presents. They'd clearly hired a photographer. I counted 21 people. The same house we used to go to with casseroles and gifts. The same people who called me family to my face and ignored me in every group chat. I showed the girls. I didn't want to lie. Lily asked why we weren't there. Ava didn't say anything at first, just looked, then said quietly, "It's okay. Now we'll celebrate differently." I smiled, told her she was right, but inside, I was burning. I didn't need their approval anymore. But my daughters deserved to be treated like family. Whatever my parents felt about me, the girls had nothing to do with it. And yet, they'd been completely erased. In that moment, I understood. Enough. That night, after the girls fell asleep, I opened my laptop and pulled up every bill I'd been quietly paying for years. My parents' electricity and water? Cut off. The car insurance I'd paid 3 times? Cancelled. My brother's apartment, the one I'd helped with rent a few times? Gone. All the automatic payments, all the app transfers, every service they'd accepted like it was their due, gone. No messages. No warnings. Just silence. By morning, the family chat was a circus. Dozens of unread messages. Missed calls. Mom wrote that the power seemed to be out. Dad complained the internet wasn't working. My brother pretended to be clueless, but then asked if I had any extra money for rent. I didn't answer. Because if they decided to cut us out of Christmas like we didn't exist, then let them try living without everything I'd been carrying for years. I just watched the notifications pile up, one after another, like falling dominoes. All of them confused, shocked, and completely unaware of what they'd done. By noon on December 26th, I had 6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, and 1 from my brother. That last one made me laugh. He left a voicemail, trying to sound casual, like it was a regular Monday. "Hey, Kathleen. Mom says the power's out and the water's not working. Dad's complaining the internet's down too. I told them you usually handle that stuff. Maybe your card just expired or something. Check it when you get a minute. And right then I realized. They still didn't get it. They genuinely didn't understand they'd gone too far. In their minds, I was supposed to keep paying the bills, keep helping, keep quiet, no matter how they treated me. Like excluding me and my daughters from the one holiday that's supposed to bring families together was just a minor misunderstanding. Later that evening, Mom finally sent a personal message. We noticed the payment stopped. What's going on? Is something wrong? Let us know. But you understand, you're still obligated to help us. We raised you. Period. That phrase, we raised you, hit me like it meant I was still a child being presented with a bill for my upbringing. Like everything I'd done before wasn't an act of quiet devotion, but an obligation. Like my life and my work were their property, just because I dared to build something of my own without their permission. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I was tired of doling out charity to people who only valued it when it stopped. That evening, around 9, I got a message from Aunt Frances, my mom's older sister. She was always quiet, reserved, never took sides. Her message was short, but honest. Just saw the Christmas photos. Didn't know you, and the girls weren't there. I'm sorry. Are you okay? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, not with everything, just what mattered. I told her they'd made it very clear. All they wanted from me were two things, my money and my silence. It wasn't anything new, wasn't sudden, and I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just tired. I told her Ava and Lily saw those photos too, asked questions I couldn't answer. An hour later, she called. I almost ignored it, but I answered, and I'm glad I did. She didn't try to guilt-trip me, didn't beg for reconciliation. She just listened. Then she said something I didn't expect at all. They think you pulled away because of those photos. But it started much earlier. I see that now, and honestly, I don't blame you. But maybe it could still be fixed if you wanted. I told her I didn't, because what they'd broken couldn't be put back together with apologies or a dinner invitation. It wasn't about Christmas. It was about years of being pushed aside until they needed something. Aunt Frances said she understood, but she'd still talk to them, not to change my mind, but to make them finally see the truth. She added that Ava and Lily didn't deserve to be collateral damage in a conflict they didn't even know existed. That if anything could be fixed, it had to come from them, not from me. I didn't say anything else, just thanked her, and we said goodbye. That night, after the girls fell asleep, I sat by the fireplace, watching the snow fall slowly past the big window. I wasn't angry. I just didn't want to play anymore. For the first time, I wasn't chasing peace, wasn't trying to smooth things over. I just sat in the silence, letting them feel what they'd created. The family chat was still boiling over. I scrolled through it without much interest. My brother had already posted some passive-aggressive nonsense like, some people just don't understand what family is. A cousin followed up with, she always thinks she's better than everyone. I kept scrolling until I saw a message from Mom. Kathleen, if you're trying to punish us, it's not fair to the children. Just be an adult and talk. Be an adult. From the woman who'd erased us from Christmas with one short message. I locked the screen and went to sleep. 2 days later, Mom wrote again. Only it wasn't a message. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't know how to feel. It was a voice note. And everything in her voice was different. The message came on the morning of the 28th. No text, no explanation. Just one audio file in the family chat. A little sonic mine I wasn't sure I even wanted to touch. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes before I hit play. I expected justifications. I expected Mom to start dodging, like always, to say I'd misunderstood, that I was overreacting, that it wasn't about Ava and Lily, just circumstances. I was ready for the usual excuses, twisted into something harmless. But that's not what happened. She sounded unsure, hesitant, like she'd recorded it several times before hitting send. And for the first time in years, there was no control in her voice. No practiced dignity, just tiredness. And truth. She said she'd been looking back at the Christmas photos. And every time her eyes swept across the room in those pictures, she only saw one empty space, where we should have been. She said she couldn't stop thinking about the little handmade ornaments Ava made last year. How Lily cried when the dog accidentally knocked over the gingerbread house. And how this year, all of that had suddenly stopped mattering to them. So much so that they hadn't even thought to write, to invite, to remember. And then she said something that made my throat tighten. "You always seemed so strong." And I guess we took that to mean you didn't need anything. I thought you were the one pulling away from us. I didn't notice that we were the ones pushing you away. Silence followed. Then, "You've done so much more for us than we ever acknowledged." Financially, yes. But not just that. We let you carry the whole weight and called it independence. We never thanked you. We never asked how you were. We weren't there for you, and then we wondered why you stopped being there for us. She wasn't crying, but her voice cracked when she said Lily's name. I miss them. I miss you. And I'm sorry. Period. That was it. 3 minutes. I listened to it again. Then a third time. Then I just put the phone down and sat in the silence, staring out the big window at the snowy woods, buried under a thick layer of white. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I'd stored up that anger for years, tucked it away in the corners of my chest in case I ever needed to defend myself again from a cold remark or a sharp comment. But now it didn't burn. It just sat there, heavy, somewhere inside. The truth was, I'd stopped waiting for things to change a long time ago. Years ago, I'd made peace with the fact that they would never see anything in me but a problem they had to justify to others. At best, they tolerated me. They only loved the version of me that was quiet, showed up on time, and paid for things they were too lazy to pay for themselves. The real me, tired, working, complicated mother who'd built a life they didn't approve of, had never had a seat at their table. Then, the next day, Aunt Frances called. She didn't mention the voice note. She just said, "Your father's been pacing the living room all day, back and forth. Barely speaks, just mutters that he messed everything up." That surprised me. My father never talked about feelings. He was from that generation where men don't apologize, they just silently go outside and furiously mow the lawn. For him to admit a mistake, even indirectly, was huge. I asked Aunt Frances why now. Why did it have to come to a complete break for them to finally understand what they'd done? She answered, "Because people like that don't change until something breaks. And you finally broke it." That evening, I didn't reply to the voice note. I wasn't ready. But I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I wrote in the family chat. Not to sting or punish, but to be honest. I need space. Not just from Christmas. From everything. I've been carrying all of this on my shoulders for years. No one noticed until I stopped. The girls deserve better. And so do I. Period. At first, no one answered. But around midnight, as I was lying in bed, my phone screen lit up with a notification. It was a message from Dad. Can we talk? Not as parents and daughter, but as two people who have hurt each other and don't want to anymore. And for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't expect at all, possibility. I didn't answer right away. His message sat unread for 2 days. Not because I wanted to ignore him. I just didn't know what I was waiting for. A conversation. An apology. An explanation without the usual sharp remarks and moral lessons. He'd never been good at admitting fault. In our house, silence always meant everything was forgiven. If you didn't talk about it, it hadn't happened. But there was something different in his message. Can we talk not as parents, but as people who hurt each other? There was something real in that. I wanted to believe it wasn't just an attempt to smooth things over now that the bills had stopped getting paid. I called him. He answered on the first ring. No small talk. No usual, "Hey, Kathleen." Just one thing. I messed everything up. Then he kept going. He told the truth. Not the cleaned-up version. Not the comfortable one. The real one. He explained that the Christmas plans were made without much thought. When my brother suggested having the holiday at his place, they just agreed, and that was it. No one remembered to include me. No one asked why I wasn't part of it. It wasn't a decision, he said. It was the absence of a decision. "We thought you probably wouldn't come anyway," he admitted. "Figured you'd roll your eyes at the matching pajamas or make some sarcastic comment about family photos." I didn't want to hear it, so I didn't push. I told him that wasn't an excuse. Even if he didn't know how to talk to me, Ava and Lily didn't deserve to be excluded. He didn't argue. He just said quietly, "You're right." I was wrong. We all were. And what he said next caught me completely off guard. "I read Ava's blog," he said. I sat up straight. Ava's 10. Her teacher helped the kids create little password-protected blogs for writing practice. She writes short paragraphs about her day. Sometimes poems. Sometimes thoughts she's too shy to say out loud. A year ago, I'd sent the link to a few family members. No one ever said anything. I figured no one even opened it. But he had. He said he'd read her last entry from Christmas Eve. It was called "This Year, Just Us." She wrote about the snow at the cabin, the hot cocoa, the board games. And at the end, a line that took my breath away. "I think Grandma and Grandpa don't love us anymore. Mom says it's complicated, but I think it's just sad. I still love them. I hope they remember me. Period." He was quiet for a moment, then said softly that he'd cried when he read it. Then he added, "You're a much better mother than I ever gave you credit for, Kathleen." I didn't know what to say to that. We talked for almost an hour. For the first time, he wasn't asking about what I'd done or hadn't done. He was asking how I'd been all this time. He wanted to know how I'd managed, how long I'd been handling the bills alone, how I was actually feeling. I told him I didn't want money or recognition. I just wanted them to treat me like part of the family, not like a problem in the corner. "I'm not trying to win," I said. "I just don't want my daughters to grow up feeling invisible." He said he understood. That he and Mom wanted to change things, not just in words, but in actions. Then he asked if we'd come for New Year's. No big party. No crowds. Just us 5. He said it wasn't about making up for Christmas, but about a chance to start something new. I didn't say yes or no. And then something happened I didn't expect at all. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I opened it and saw my brother. Jeans, hoodie, no warning, no message. He looked tired. In his hands, he held 2 neatly wrapped gifts. On one, in big block letters, AVA. On the other, Lily, with a sparkly heart sticker. He looked at me and said, I was an idiot. I followed Mom and Dad because it was easier, but it was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't let him in right away. I just stood there in the silence. Then Ava peeked around the corner, saw him, and froze. He knelt down on one knee, held out her gift, and said, "Missed you, kiddo." She took it. And just like that, quietly, something small, but real, started to shift. Now they were the ones trying to come back. New Year's Eve arrived, and I still didn't know if we were going. I hadn't given an answer. But Ava kept packing and repacking her bag with her favorite books, and Lily made me promise that if we went, she could wear her sparkly shoes. They didn't say it out loud, but I knew. They wanted to go. They wanted to see if things could really be different. So, a little after 4, we got in the car and drove. The roads were quiet. The snow hadn't settled into a thick layer, just gray slushy streaks here and there. The whole drive, my chest felt tight. Not from anger. That was gone. More from a strange mix of anxiety and something like hope, but not quite there yet. When we pulled up to my parents' house, I barely recognized it. No Christmas decorations. No inflatable snowmen. No perfectly curated porch display. Just a simple green wreath on the door and the porch light already on. Mom and Dad stood in the doorway. Not smiling. Not posing. Just waiting. They didn't rush to hug us. Didn't pretend everything was fine. Mom waved quietly to the girls. Dad silently stepped aside, letting us in. And for the first time in years, it wasn't a performance. It was simple. Quiet. Inside, everything looked different. No extra chairs. No platters of appetizers. No piles of matching gifts. Just a clean dining table set for 5. Not 21. No cousins, no noise. Just us. I immediately noticed that the only decorations left were the girls' old ornaments, Ava's sparkly pine cone from 1st grade, Lily's lopsided styrofoam snowman with one eye. Everything else was gone. In the kitchen, my brother was washing dishes, like he wanted to make up for something through action. No photographer. No music playing. No script. Just the clink of plates and a faint smell of baking. The girls hesitated at first, then slowly walked into the living room. On their chairs lay two small wrapped gifts. No huge piles. No fake smiles. Just quiet attention. Lily opened hers and gasped. Inside was a necklace with her name on it. Ava got a small leather notebook and a set of pens. Both tags were in Mom's handwriting. We sat down at the table. At first, there was only silence, just the clink of forks and the sound of drinks being poured. Then Mom spoke first. We want to say this properly. We were wrong. She didn't look rehearsed. Her hands trembled slightly. She said that all these years, she'd placed expectations on me that I'd never asked for. That my independence had made them feel unnecessary. And instead of asking how I really was, they'd convinced themselves I didn't need anyone. They mistook my silence for coldness, my self-reliance for arrogance. And when it became convenient to exclude me, they never thought about what it would cost. Then Dad spoke, and his words stayed with me. I didn't know how to be proud of you without feeling like I was lying to myself. But when I read what Ava wrote, he trailed off. It broke me. She misses us. And after how we've acted, we don't deserve that. But I'd give anything to deserve her love again. He looked at Lily, then at Ava, then at me. And you. I know we piled everything on you, and you just carried it silently. We never asked how you were. We just took. And when you stopped, the silence was deafening. I leaned back in my chair. I hadn't expected such honesty, hadn't expected them to dig so deep. So I asked the only question that mattered. Why now? Why not before? Mom didn't look away. Because this time, you really left. And it made us realize how much we depended on your presence. Not the money, not the help. You. And the girls. Without you, the house was full of decorations, but completely empty. It wasn't dramatic. No one cried. There was no beautiful reconciliation scene from a movie. Just honesty. After dinner, we all settled in the living room and watched some silly comedy Ava picked out. Lily fell asleep curled up on the floor under a blanket. At midnight, we went outside to watch the fireworks. The girls were bundled up in their jackets, drinking hot cocoa. Dad silently brought me an extra blanket. Mom handed Ava a sparkler and said, "Write your name in the air." My brother stood nearby, hands in his pockets, and said quietly, "This doesn't fix everything. But I'm glad you didn't let us get away with it." I nodded. Not because I'd completely forgiven him, but because he was right. And they knew it. As the fireworks burst in the sky, Ava pressed against me and whispered, "It feels like a real Christmas." Just late. Yeah, I said. Just a little late. The next morning, the first day of the new year, I woke up on my parents' couch. The girls were still asleep on the pull-out bed, tangled in blankets and pillows, both with small smiles on their faces, like something inside them had finally settled. Dad was already in the kitchen, making coffee and humming tunelessly. Mom silently draped a folded blanket over me. No big talks. No apologies. No awkward pauses. Just quiet. Peace. Everyone understood not to break it. In the afternoon, relatives started arriving. Apparently, they had a tradition, a late New Year's dinner they never missed. I hadn't been invited for years. I thought it would be like always. Food. Fake laughter. Polite conversation. Whispering behind my back. But this time, it was different. At first, I just watched. Lily stayed close to Mom, who suddenly seemed to be her favorite again. Ava was showing her new journal to my cousin's daughter, like it was treasure. I stood by the sink, not sure if I was even supposed to be there. And then it happened. My cousin Samuel walked into the kitchen, loud, always a bit much, the one who never knew when to stop talking. He looked at me and said, "Hey, didn't they not invite you to Christmas?" The room went completely still. My aunt dropped a spoon. I froze. Before I could even say anything, my dad stepped in. He didn't raise his voice, didn't make a speech. He just turned to everyone and said calmly, "Kathleen and the girls weren't with us because we made a mistake. A stupid mistake. And we regret it." The silence was almost solid. No one had ever heard my father admit fault before. Ever. Mom added, "We thought we were doing what was right for the family. But really, we were just hurting her." And that was it. They didn't try to justify it. They didn't look at me, waiting for me to smooth things over. They just owned it and let it sit there. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Later, my brother's wife came over and apologized for never saying anything before. She admitted she'd felt it was wrong, but didn't want to get involved. We hugged. Not warmly, but genuinely. One of my younger cousins asked Ava to help decorate cupcakes. Lily was invited to do a puzzle with kids she hadn't seen in 2 years. No one pretended everything was like before. They just acted like it mattered. When we got home, I slowly unpacked our bags. The girls were still chattering about the fireworks, the cupcakes, how Ava burned her mitten with a sparkler. No one mentioned Christmas, but it hung in the air, like a memory we weren't quite ready to touch. Around 9 p.m., a message came from Mom. Just one line. We packed up the Christmas presents. They're yours whenever you want to get them. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I answered. The girls got everything they needed. So did I. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to explain anything. No more need to defend myself. No more pretending it didn't hurt. They'd been wrong. I'd left. And when they finally felt what that meant, they came back. Not with excuses. With change. Later, Ava came into my room with her journal. She said she was writing about New Year's, but didn't know how to end it. I asked what she had so far. It started sad, she said. Then it got good. Like everything changed in the middle. I smiled and answered, maybe that is the ending. Sometimes the good comes late. But it still counts. And I really felt that.